All right, now we are live. Wow, social media. I mean, these electronics sometimes it can be something. So, thank you guys for joining us tonight. It's called therapy. Before we get started, go ahead and share, create a watch party. If need to, get your friend. Look, get your friend, get your cousin, get your auntie. Because this conversation is for African American women. It's for African American women. I am your host, Tara T. Stallings, counselor, author, certified life coach, and transformational speaker.
And I
And
am, oh, I'm sorry.
love it. Go ahead.
And I'm Melody Manning, a certified life coach specializing in mental health, transformation, and spiritual coaching.
All right, let's get started tonight. A lot of you guys see the topic, does silence mean that I'm strong? So today, Mel and I had a conversation, was sprung from a conversation that she had about the topic tonight, about what it means to be strong as a female, as a woman, and the misconception that people have around a woman being strong. So we're gonna dive into it. So listen, if you have been called a strong black woman, or you consider yourself a strong black woman or brown woman, and you have gotten some slack from it, and hey, and even invite the men in, because this is something that the men need to hear, because there's so many misconceptions. And we need to talk about it, because just so happened Melody, when she was talking to me today, I said, hey, I was just having this conversation with one of my clients, and we need to talk about it. So Melody, I'm going to let you go ahead and get started.
Okay. Well, as she said, we were having a conversation about being strong in general, and it kind of went hand in hand with being the strong black woman. But I think we need to actually look at what does it mean to be strong and how it's perceived by others when you're labeled the strong black woman or the strong friend or the strong family member, and who actually checks on the strong. And I use this analogy in a conversation because I had this conversation, well, with a total of three people now. Two of them were male, and of course, me and Tara talked about it. Um, when you're working out in the gym and you want to tone your body and build your strength, you're more than likely lifting weights. You're lifting some kind of weight, and there's some kind of resistance there that's going to strengthen your muscles to make you stronger. Well, when we think about strong people, that means that they may be going through or have been through something where they had to display a large amount of strength, that it didn't overtake them. They didn't succumb to what was going on. And sometimes we are so quick to say, oh, they're strong. And we don't check on those strong people, because you have to remember, for them to be a strong person, again, they're going through something or they have been through something that's required them to display strength. So with that, we have to be mindful of that and check on them just like we check on those that we may deem need us to check on them for one reason or another. Check on your strong men and your strong friends and your strong other women and family members. We have this saying, oh, they're the rock of everything. Well, rocks take a lot of pressure to them. And you got to be in tune with what may be going on with them during that time. We just may not, a strong person may not display it like you may think they just should display it, because I'm just gonna make it personal. In the conversations I was having, one of the people told me, "Well, I've never seen you cry, and I've seen you in some tough situations, but I never seen you break down and cry. I've never heard you ask for anything or that you need anything. You're a very strong person." I say, "But does that mean you don't check on me? Does that mean you don't ask me, hey, are you okay? Is there anything you need? Or how are you feeling? Or what's really going on?" So we kind of tend to overlook the strong person. And I had to tell them, you believe it or not, I'm a big old crybaby. I cry in a minute. You just may not see me cry, but I'm a big crybaby. I cried, the drop of a dime. We had a meeting. I had to tell two of the women, "Don't y'all cry, because if y'all cry, you're gonna make me cry." I'm just that sensitive, but I don't always display that, in public. So if you happen to see me cry, just know I really got reason to cry, you know. But we have to be mindful and check on the strong people and not assume what it is. And then me and Tara, we moved into the discussion of what is a strong woman.
Yeah. What does it mean to be strong? There's so many misconceptions of a strong woman. And I shared this recently. Um, and with my story, I started, well, I still am a licensed master cosmetologist, and I still own a hair salon. And with that, it comes a sense of leadership when you get things done. When you're the type of person that leads, and you especially if you're a business owner and you're getting things done and you're making things happen because you have to make them happen, you are presumed to be a strong person. And people look at you in a certain perspective, and they don't realize that sometimes you are doing things because not because you're just so strong. You doing those things because they have to be done, and this is what has to be done, because if they don't get done, if you don't do them, they don't get done.
True.
And with that, you know it caused me at a certain time in my life to put up a wall with my emotions, because I had no time to. If I would have stopped and dealt with those things, I would have got the things that needed to be done for my business done. But it doesn't mean that I was strong, because emotionally, I was dying on the inside. I just know how to mask it very well. I was the master. I had some really pretty, elegant, fashionable mask that I can mask them with. But it didn't mean that I was, just so strong. And I would hear people say, you a diva, you get it done, you this, you that, you that. And I've heard people say, I look up to you because you're doing it. And I'm like, you just don't know, you know, what I was dealing with emotionally. And a lot of times when you look at a woman getting things done, especially African Black and brown women, sometimes they're forced in a position that they're not necessarily want to be in. And because they are able to effectively get things done that have to be done, they are pictured as strong, a strong Black or brown woman, not realizing just because a person is able to get tasks done and get those tasks done effectively, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are emotionally stable or strong. It just may mean that they're able to categorize, okay, this task needed to get done, and if I'm going to let my emotions show right now, you know, and most of the time that's what happens. And then they get put in this category as a strong woman. Now, with my observation, doing things doesn't already just arbitrarily make you strong. Strong is being balanced, being able to be stable, not in just family, work, but to be stable in your emotions, in your relationships, within your feelings, and being able to articulate those feelings when need be. But so often, especially I'm a single Black woman, I have too in the past been called or labeled, well, you strong Black woman, you don't need a man. And I said, well, why? And this came from a gentleman. I said, well, and then I asked the question, I said, why do you say that? He said to me, because you never asked me for anything. And I said, I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you never asked me for anything. I said, well, am I supposed to ask you for something? You know, I said, am I supposed to ask you for something? He said, but no, but you never asked me for anything. If you need anything, I said, and this was my response. I said, well, I feel this way. Now I can pay my bills. I'm gonna eat. I said, but if you're interested in me and you feel like you want to do something to help me or increase me, I should not have to ask you for it. You should volunteer it. So I'm not the type of person, male, female, to ask a person for anything. If I ask a person, it's because I really, really need it, and I'm not too proud to ask a person for something that I really need. But at the same time, I have certain people that I go to that I know I can rely on if I'm in certain need for certain things. You know, I have a category of people for financial stability. I have my dear friend, Nikki Johnson, who's a caterer and does events. If I need her, I know I can call her at the drop of the dime. Nikki, I need you to do A, B, C, and D. And it's no problem, it's done. So it's certain people that I know I can call on, but it doesn't just mean I'm a strong person. Sometimes it just means I know how to get things done. Or I'm capable of getting things done that need to get done. So I think we need to just kind of reevaluate what it means to be strong, because just because the person doesn't complain, and I think Melody and I talked about it, just because a person doesn't complain about the hell or the chaos that may be going on in their life, in their family, doesn't mean that they don't feel, they're not concerned, or that they are emotionless. I never forget, I had one of my sons, my baby son, actually we had a discussion, and it was a good discussion at the time, because in his perception, he said to me, well, mama, you act like you don't let anything bother you. You don't let anything bother you, good, bad, you just let it go. And I said, well, why do you say that? He said, because you don't cry, you don't do it. And I said, well, you're not there at night in my bed when my pillow is soaked, or I'm praying, or I'm crying out. I said, just because you don't see me doesn't mean I don't do it. Now, I said to Melody earlier, and this is how naturally, I'm not a crier. It takes a lot for me to cry. A lot. If you see me crying, it may not be because I'm sad, it may be because I'm grateful for something. But it takes a lot, or I may be having a reflection. Now, every now and then I think about my mom and I'll get teary-eyed. But I'm not naturally a crier. So what? So does my silence mean that I'm just a strong person? And because I'm able to handle things, Melody.
I think it kind of goes to what we talked about briefly too, that the vulnerability part of it. We tend not to share our vulnerability with just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We're very I well let me bring it home to me. I'm very selective as to who I am very vulnerable with. So if, just like I said about the crying, if you get to see that part of me, because that's something that I don't just share with everybody. I just don't fully, not fully vulnerable with everyone. And you have to be selective, as to who you let in on certain things. Then you got to be very, very special. And I think highly of you. And I think a lot of women, I'm gonna say women, that have been given the title of the strong Black woman is because a lot of people have not experienced the vulnerability. And I said this to
Mm-hmm.
you earlier. You have a lot of people, they're in relationships, be it committed relationships, marriages, and sometimes parent child, family members, that they only surface know a person. They don't really truly know that person, the intimate part of that person. And some of that can be to some of the things that we have experienced in our lives that have kind of put that block on us, that we're not so, you know, I can't let you see this part of me. You don't deserve to see this part of me, or you may use that part of me against me at a later time. So that's something we have to look at too when we're talking about strong people, especially women. Why are we not able to be vulnerable in front of others? Because I hear you say, you
Mm-hmm.
cry at night, and then I know me too. When you're in private, that's when you deal with all of the stuff. Everybody's not privy to that,
Mm-hmm.
in a strong person's world. And that's why it's important sometimes to get to know people intimately, that you can be in that space where you can say, hey, are you okay? Because it's okay not to be okay. We've made it
Mm-hmm.
so till, it's a bad thing to not be okay. Well, we all have days where we just not okay. But our typical answer, if somebody asks us if you're okay, oh yeah, I'm okay. Knowing good and well you not okay. But we just don't feel freely enough to give that because again, a lot of people surface know you. They don't have that total intimacy with you. So
Yes.
the thing
I'm
is,
reminded. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the thing is we have to work on, especially women, and even with other women, and even with male counterparts, they have to remember we're emotional creatures when it comes to women, and that vulnerability is kind of like a sacred thing to us. So that's a important part of dealing with our makeup and dealing with the woman, is to actually get to know her intimately. And when I say intimately, I'm not talking about sexually.
Right. Exactly. We are more emotional and display more emotions than men do. As you were talking, I'm reminded some years back, 9 years ago, actually, almost 10 years now, my mom, she passed with ovarian cancer. And at her funeral, I shared a story about how even though she was, in her last days and she was suffering and wasn't eating and all of this stuff, and every time you ask her how she was doing, her response was, I'm okay. I'm okay. And she wasn't okay. I remember the hospice nurse talking to her. This was maybe like a week before she passed, when she kind of really realized, hey, I may not make it. And the nurse came to me and said, I had a conversation with her and she's scared about dying. And now, mind you, I was her primary caregiver at that time, but she had the conversation with the hospice nurse, being transparent with her, saying, hey, I'm not okay. I'm scared. I'm scared about dying. I don't want to die. But any other time you asked her what was, how you doing, if I was changing her tubes or what, if she said, the answer was always this: I'm okay. And that to me came from cultural behavior, because she was taught not to complain about things, just to get it done. My mom was never a complainer. She didn't complain. You didn't hear her complain about if she was feeling bad. She said, well, I just got a headache, or, not. But she wasn't that type of person that displayed how she felt. If she was disappointed, I got and did something I was supposed to, of course. But for herself, she was never that person. And it took her actually in almost a non-responsive condition, hours really before she died, for her to shed tears, for her to really cry. And that was the first time I heard her cry. And I said, are you crying? And she was, and I told her it was okay. So for me, now this is my mom dying on her deathbed. And I'm not telling this to be a sad story. I'm just telling you about being a strong person, because sometimes the persona has been placed on women, that you have to put on this, I'm okay, I'm strong, I can take it, when on the inside, they're not okay. And people look on the outside, that shell, because she kept it looking good. She didn't complain. Many people presume that female, African American females, especially Black and brown females, are strong because they don't complain. They don't show when they're in emotional distress. They don't show when they're in financial distress. They make it look good. And I think for Black and brown women, it's a cultural thing with us, because you can be dirt poor and nobody's gonna know you dirt poor. You could be eating, cheese and crackers at home, but your clothes are gonna be clean, your hair is gonna be combed, and you're not gonna look like the situation. Mm-hmm. So now 2021, you have in the 20, well, not just to say 2021, but in this new era, you have so many women that are dying emotionally because the persona of their parents, of their mother, of their aunties have been placed on them that I got to get it done. I got to do this. They're dying emotionally. They're dying physically. And a lot of them are dying financially because they're wearing this mask like they're strong when really they're weak because they're out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of balance. And men are looking at them saying, oh, well, she's strong. She don't really need a man. Well, I never forget this, Melody. Having this conversation with my ex-husband, and he said this to me. He said we were going through some stuff. He said, well, I'm doing this because I want you to need me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I want you to need me. And I said, well, I don't want to need you. I want to want you. And we get need and want mixed up,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes down to being strong. You never want to need a person. You may need them to do something, but you want to have your mind. I want this person in my life. I don't want to have to need this person in my life. I want this person. I want to desire this person.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we get labeled as strong women because of the misconception and the persona that we project in our community and with our male counterpart.
Mm. So I guess, the question really would be is how do we begin to change that? What is
Mhm.
it that we can do as women that will change that persona? Because there are different instances. Some women, again, you're considered strong. Um, you always dressed. You always on the go. Just like you said, we know. I was taught, you know, and I heard this from my grandmother. I heard this from my mother and my father. I don't care if you don't have $3 in your bank account. The world is not supposed to know it because you're not supposed to look like you got $3 in your bank
Right.
account. I was raised on that. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
don't discuss finances. You know, you don't discuss your finances. If he ain't your husband, you don't need to go into no whole lot of depth about your finances. And my daddy taught me that. That's what my daddy, he taught me that. He don't need to know what you got and what you got coming in unless he can ready to be your husband. Other than that, you don't, you don't, he doesn't need
Yeah.
to know that. So then we do take on that persona of the strong. And
Mm-hmm.
men equivalent that again to she doesn't need me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to change the way that they understand the difference between need and want.
Mm-hmm.
Those two words, want and need. I want a man to do this, but do I actually need him to do that? No. It's better for me to want you to do this and you do it than to me actually needing it. But that's a whole nother show where we can get to talk about that partnership thing. But I just
Yes.
realized, that can go deep there. But we
Yes.
have to change the narrative as to how we take and how we perceive things. Because, my rebuttal, to one of the gentlemen that I was having this conversation with, because they were telling me this is what they thought of me, how they felt about me. But I'm like, have you ever came to me and sat down and said, is it anything that you need? Are you okay today? And me and these gentlemen, we have lengthy conversations. Just like you and I get on the phone and we can talk hours and about different things. We have lengthy conversations, but they're that conversations. But do you intimately know me? Have you tried to get to a point where you intimately know me? And if you have not, then you can't really say I am a strong woman, because the way I dress, because I'm not asking you for money, really does not show that I'm a strong woman. If
Mm-hmm.
that's all it takes. And some people,
Exactly.
that's all it takes.
And that's sad that it's that way, because you have so many black educated women that are financially stable, but and then you have men that and women that use their finances to control.
Mm-hmm.
And again, women have to change the narrative when it comes to relationships, not just male and female relationships, but also female and female relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because money just make and just because you make money doesn't mean you stable with your money. Doesn't mean
Thank
that.
you.
Just because you have things and stuff, it doesn't mean you're stable with your, you're strong in that area. It just means you make the money. It doesn't mean you know what to do with it also, always. But we have to change the narrative as it relates to the persona of what a strong woman is, because you don't have to be that strong educated black woman, that educated black woman, because you have women that are strong, that don't work, that take care of their children every day, that run households,
Mm-hmm.
that you have a college PhD educated female. She don't know how to run a household. You wouldn't know how to make that household run.
Yep.
And I've seen women that are strong that other women or men would think, oh, they're not strong. But if you have 6 kids that you got to make sure they're fed every day, you got clothes to wash, you got to keep their house clean, you got to make sure homework is done, you got to make sure they have good behaviors, educated and good manners, and then take care of your husband. That's a strong black woman.
Yep.
Make sure all his needs are met and your needs are met. That's a job that she never gets a break from. And then take care of mama, auntie, cousin, brother, sister, and everybody else. That's a strong woman. Being able to balance life is a strong woman. I've seen so often, and I was a victim of it. Let me just say that. Let me get everything done. Let me do it my way. Let me do it my way. And that's when we, in relationship wise, in marriages wise, as it comes to marriages and relationships, a lot of times women get the misconception. They want everything done their way. And when it comes to their husband, there's an issue because he's not doing anything. Well, he's not doing anything because you're doing it all. You don't allow him to do it all because you want it done a certain way. And then you're
True.
mad with him because he's not taking on initiative. Well, what can he do? If you taking over, how can he do anything? And he's not doing it the way you want to do. But that all goes back to initial communication.
Mm-hmm.
Melody, you said it and you said it best. They never asked you, how are you? There's a saying on the street. When you assume something, y'all know the rest of it. Assumption. I'm not going to use the word, but make you look like a donkey. A donkey. Another word for a donkey. That's what assumption is. So see, we assume things without having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been guilty of it, and I know many other people have been guilty of it. But you never assume, you ask. You don't assume if somebody's okay. You don't assume if, they're emotional okay, they're financially okay. You don't know. You just don't know. So it's when you are dealing with a person to ask questions, to just ask. To my fellas out there, if you presume that a young lady or a woman that you are interested in doesn't need you, and because of what she looks and how she carries herself and what type of job or what type of car she drives, you don't know what's going on. Ask the question. Women, just because the man that you're looking at, he looks good, he goes to work and he seems to have everything in place, you don't know what's going on with him emotionally. Ask the question. Stop assuming that people are strong when we really don't know what the definition of strong is. Because something strong, to make something strong, it has to be in balance. If you look at a rope, it's only at its strongest when all the cords are in unison. When the cords are not in unison and you have one or two cords that's ripped or has a tear in it, that rope is not strong anymore. It's its strongest when everything is in balance. And when you look at a rope, it's not smooth. It has ridges in there, but they all entwine together. So when things are in balance, then that's when a person or something is at its strongest. In balance in their health, in balance in their spirituality, in balance in their finances, in balance in their emotions. Being able, when I say imbalance in their emotions, being able to articulate how they feel when they feel that way, and being okay with not being okay.
Yeah. And I think too, another dynamic, Tara, I just want to hit on right quick too, is culturally, especially with our boys, because I mentioned this to you earlier. We tend to tell our sons, the little boys, don't you cry. You better not cry. That's something little boys don't do. And some parents even tell their little girls, don't cry. It's nothing wrong with crying. We have given crying a bad rap, you know. And you said it earlier, the first thing people tell you when you're crying, if they see you crying, is it's gonna be okay. But sometimes you just need to be able to cry. And then when you've got somebody that's asking you, are you okay? Be genuine with it. And I mentioned this to you also. Sometimes when you ask somebody if they're okay, they're not always necessarily looking for you to solve their problem. They just need to give it a voice, just to get it off of their shoulders and to make it a little bit lighter. And then they can go into, okay, let me get this done, or I need to do this. But they just needed somebody to hear them. So when we ask if a person is okay, we need to be genuine and be prepared to listen. And again, that goes into that intimacy. We have to get where we can get to a point. especially women to women, where we can trust each other. Because that intimacy part, there's a trust element in there where we can feel vulnerable enough to say, you know what, sis, no, I ain't good today. I got this going on. Today just ain't my day. I'm off balance. This and this and this happened. And it not be used against them. Because if you talk to a lot of people that's got that wall up, that's not letting somebody in, not letting anybody in, and I'm talking from experience, is because something has happened in the past where they're not going to share anything with anybody because it did not come out into a favorable way when they did it before. Mm-hmm. So now they built that wall up. Yeah. And not only woman to woman connection, how can you genuinely have a connection with in a committed relationship or your significant other when you've got that wall up and they haven't even realized that wall is up? Mm-hmm. You've got that surface relationship. So we have to allow people to cry sometimes and not judge them and take that stigmatism off of the crying. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with crying and shedding those tears, because what it does is it relieves you, it cleanses you, it lets your mind be free. And sometimes once you do that, you can then begin to think clearly as to how to deal with whatever the situation may be.
Definitely. And especially, I would say, especially men also, because men have been taught not to cry. And women, let me say this. Women, allow your men to be transparent with you. If you are married or dating to get married, I ain't talking just about the boo thing. I'm not talking about that. Your intimate relationship, not your sex life, your intimate relationship should be one where you can be butt naked emotionally in front of that person. Mm-hmm. If you cannot be naked and transparent emotionally in front of the person that you're sleeping with, you don't need to be with them. I use the analogy, especially as it relates to relationship. If you can't trust them with your money, you don't need to trust them with your honey. If you can't trust that person with your money, you need to keep your legs closed. They don't need to be in between your legs. If you can't trust them with your emotions, if you cannot trust the person with your emotions, they don't need to be in your space. Mm-hmm. If it's your intimate relationship, your male female relationship, even your friendship, you have mind you have that inner circle, you have that outer circle, and then you have that outer circle. And you know where to place those friends, those people that come in your life. But if a person is in your life and you cannot be transparent, especially if they're in your inner circle, they don't need to be your friends. You don't need those people in your life. Because what happens is, just like Melody, you shared. If you share something with them and you can't trust them and they use it against you, it's going to cause you to be hardened in that area. You're not going to want to share that information. You're going to build a wall, and nothing can get in that wall and nothing can get out of that wall. So we have to learn how to communicate. Understand, when you get into a relationship with somebody, take time to get to know that person, to conversate, so that you can build a healthy relationship with that person. Healthy means emotionally. You have an emotional transparency and connection with that person so that you're able to communicate And that's the part that we miss out. We miss that thing out. We miss that section out. And then we get dismissed or labeled as strong because the communication isn't there. And you have him or her with high, wide walls because they're emotionally damaged. So strong again doesn't mean, I get things done. Strong means balance. And we have to be okay with, like Melody said, being not okay. It's okay not to be okay. I had one of the viewers typed on from YouTube said this. When her mama died, she was saying that she was okay, but it took a long time to admit that she wasn't okay. And a lot of that is from condition, because especially when someone dies or someone passes in our life or whatever, or we lose a relationship divorce, we have been taught, okay, put your big girl panties on, put your on, come on, get it together. We have been conditioned that don't show your emotions, don't let it bother you. Well, sometimes it's still bothering you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you need to cry, cry. If you need to say, well, I'm not okay, I'm not okay. I'm just not okay. And it's okay to be not okay. It's not okay to be not okay when you stay that way. See, it's okay to be not okay. It becomes a problem when you stay in that mindset of not being okay. You're not getting help for being not okay. You're not working through being not okay. That's when it becomes a problem. But it's okay to have times in your life. You know what, today, and I shared that with Melody, I just don't feel like being bothered with anybody today. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be by myself. That's okay. Doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It just means you need that. Melody, you talked about it in one of your broadcasts. Self-care. Sometimes self-care is, look, I just need my me time. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to walk around the house with my booty shorts on. I don't want to comb my hair. I just want to watch Lifetime today, or I want to binge on whatever. That's all I want to do today. Or I just want to sleep, or whatever it is. And it's okay.
It's okay.
Sometimes you need those mental days just to say, okay, I need to step back. I need time for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we tend not to, especially people that have that label of strong, not to take that time for ourselves. But that self-care time is so important, because you can't help somebody else and pour into them if you don't have anything to pour. So we have to take that time, make that time to revive ourselves and to refill ourselves. And it can take on many forms. Just like you said, I don't want to be bothered. I had them days. I don't want to be bothered. That phone ring, I just don't want to answer that phone. I had somebody say, well, I know you always had your phone on you and you didn't answer. I just didn't want to talk to nobody. Not that, something was wrong or I'm here or there. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And if it was an emergency and you couldn't get me, I know you text me. I'm going to see it, but I just didn't want to talk to anybody. It may be, time that you take to pray and meditate. You know, you got to get that time in for yourself. And I can't stress that, even when we're asking people that we think are strong, are you okay? Be genuine with it, because that's the most important thing. Be
Yes.
genuine with it. Because
Yes.
most of the time, as I said, strong people got that wall up. They're not going to share easily. but be genuine
And
with your
would
concern.
you say that I would even say that when a person has a wall up, I think we kind of broke up. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It was the media is breaking up. I'm sorry. You were still talking and it kind of broke up. So
It may
would
be
you
a
even
delay.
say
I'm listening to you.
okay? So even what we say is strong. Sometimes it's just they're not like we said. It's not strong. They just put a wall up. It's a mirage.
Mhm.
It's a wall with a hurt person behind it that knows how to mask. Like
Mm.
I learned. You look. I was the when I tell you I could make a bad situation look good. I didn't even know I was depressed until I came out of my depression because it had become so normal to me, and I learned how to mask it.
Mhm.
I didn't realize I was in a depressed state until I actually came out of my depression. I was a functional depressive.
Mhm.
I knew how to make my bad situation look good that nobody knew what I was going through. The only way they knew what I was going through is if I told them. And my inner circle were the only ones that knew
Mhm.
what I was really going through. Nobody else knew. And when the rubber met the road and all hell broke loose, they were like, well, I never knew, you were going through this because I never told anybody. I knew how to wear the mask to cover what was going on. And I should have learned, I should have known to not cover up. But because culturally, what have we been taught? What goes on in the house
Stay.
stays in the house. You don't tell everybody your business.
Mhm.
So it took, the situation to blow up for me to have to start displaying some things. And then for me, I was the bad person because, you know, the other person had displayed these other great traits, and I never said anything. Well, you never said anything. Well, I was taught not to.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
one thing I knew, every actor has to gonna put his
That-
part down, and the truth will be displayed. So you have to learn how to just be honest. It doesn't mean you got to go tell everybody all your business. It doesn't mean that. It means that you have to find some people, some credible people that you can um share with that's gonna give you some or what not even give you advice, just be a little ear.
Mhm.
If you need to go get some help, go get some help. But sometimes you have to call somebody. Because I called Mel, I know it was almost time for us to end, but I have called Mel and I was just on a rant. And Mel was like, okay, Charles, what's going on with you? Well, what's going on with you today? And I was just going on. I just had, I was just in my feelings and I just had somebody to just dump it on. And she was there to dump it. And the next day I was okay. She was like, well, now yesterday was having one of your days. Yep. And I thank you for listening to me in one of my days. And it was okay.
It was
It
okay.
was okay. It was okay. It's okay. And sometimes you just like Mel said, I don't just need you to just listen, just be the trash can. Don't hold on to it. Take the trash and go put the trash out. Just take my trash and take it out. I need you to hear my trash today.
Yeah.
And take it out and it's okay. I'm not gonna take, so it's okay. But we have to learn, especially as Black and brown women, that your silence doesn't mean that you're strong. It just means that you're not talking. That's all it means. You're not displaying it. It doesn't mean that you're strong. And for our men and for those people that are looking out, looking on the outside, looking in, you have to realize it's okay not to be okay, and ask. Just don't assume that the person is okay. You ask them, are they okay?
Mm-hmm.
So many people commit suicide because,
Mm-hmm.
and then after they commit suicide, people say, well, I never knew anything was wrong because they never said anything. They knew how to mask it. Ask if they're okay. Melody?
Well, you said it with the mask, because we have become professional makeup artists, all of us. We are all MUAs, because we can put on some pretty masks, we can pretty some stuff up if you're looking on the outside of a person. We can make it pretty. And I always say every smile is not a smile.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some tears behind it. You just don't physically see those tears. And again, that comes from trusting people and being able to be vulnerable with someone, and being okay and trusting them enough to allow them to be who they are and you to be who you are. So that's
All
about
right, you guys.
it.
Hey, thank you guys for joining us tonight on Talk Therapy, where the conversations are always real, raw, and relevant. Join us every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. live on our Talk Therapy page on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube, Periscope, and then the podcast. So until next Tuesday, make sure you follow Melody and I on Facebook. If you have an IG account, make sure you follow us on IG. You can find me at Let's Talk Tara. You can find Melody at Inspired by Melody. And hey, if you're on Clubhouse, follow us. I'm Coach Tara Talks, and Melody is Inspired by Mel. So, but if you put our names in, you'll find us there. Join us over there because look, we're gonna start having some juicy conversations on Clubhouse. So until next time, you guys have a great, 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 great week.
Thank you so much. Come back next week for more real, raw, and relevant information here at Talk Therapy. Sister, let's talk.